Oh, hello there. This is kind of awkward. Not that I'm stuck in a dungeon or anything like that. That's pretty normal for me. I am sorry I'm wearing pants, which is pretty unusual. Give me a second though. I just beat this level. And that's my bye phase. I'll be back with you in 1 second. Let me just see what the shop has. Ooh, an abyssal dagger. That'd be a good start. Yeah, that's good base. I'll grab one of those. Peanut, what the heck are you doing here? Again? Another one of my reviews? Yeah, I'll buy you. Alright, give me a second. I'll figure you out. Yes, Peanut, I see it. I'm gonna grab it. I'm gonna grab you the tunnel for the synergy, okay? Alright, now I'm equipped for the next stage. This is a review of God of Weapons, by the way. God of Weapons is a great game. It's a solid, to me, 7 out of 10. But for me, this review isn't so much critiquing current systems, although I do have suggestions to make them better. It's about the potential of the game. This game's actually really, really good so far, but there's something that the developer has done that other companies don't have right. They have a really solid base. With a solid base, all they need to do is build up the foundation and make it a beautiful game. It has the potential. It's just sitting there. I'm hoping to talk a little bit about some of the current changes I would make in the game, but mostly suggestions for the future. They did have a future content survey, and I didn't read a single letter of it. This one's gonna be just straight video of what I think the game needs. I like to show trailers when I do this because it saves me editing time. If you're someone who hasn't currently bought the game, a lot of people won't watch the trailer on the Steam page to see what the game's about. They kind of go to YouTube. YouTube shows you exactly what the gameplay is like when you play it, but at the same time, the trailer is where the developer decided, hey, I want this to be what my game represents, what it looks like. If the trailer didn't make things clear, this is a Vampire Survivors copy, sorta, genre thing. That's not an insult, by the way. It does do things differently. Two main things that pop out is the dash system. See, each class, and there are classes, by the way, has the ability to dash once when you first start the game. This dash makes you immune to damage. The other thing is, of course, the graphics. Vampire Survivors does that very simple pixelated graphics. I like this game's graphics a lot more. Some people have complained that the camera is a little bit too low. There's an option in the options menu to make it higher, which is what I play it on. I love the art style. And the third thing that makes this game really unique, you backpack hero lovers and Resident Evil 4 players, you're gonna love this. This game has an inventory management system. I want to split this up into two sections, the combat and then the inventory aspect. Those are the two main parts of this game. I'm gonna do a quick nod to the story. I can literally write on the palm of my hand. You're ascending a tower to collect the light to save humanity or something of the sort. You're trying to take out Zor, the Overlord, at the top. He's on the 20th floor whenever you do get difficulty that has him. You don't have to kill him. You just have to survive the level, but you want to kill him for the glory. So the story is super simple. I probably have it in a text box right up over here. I like it though. I don't need a super complex story to have fun in the game. Just tell me I'm a good guy. Those are bad guys. I killed the bad guys. Okay. It's nice too because it leaves room in the future if they ever do want to add some kind of story with the classes or anything of that sort. It's just like I said, it goes back to the idea that this game is very, very good at a base level. At a foundational level, this game is perfect. So we gotta kill Zor and the demons. How do we do that? Well, you're gonna first start off the game by picking one of 12 characters. Each of these 12 characters has 3 different classes. Quick nod, there's a 13th class with just a random. So how do you get these classes, and how do you unlock their aspects, if you want to call them that? Well, you see, you go to the monolith of wishes,
you're gonna have
and
to
you
push yourself to do things that you don't
complete
naturally want to do.
achievements
In
to
some
unlock
cases.
them. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, I got panicked over nothing. See, in the last game I did, Into the Breach, you had to do achievements that were counterintuitive to the gameplay you wanted to do. This one just rewards you for doing good gameplay. I'm gonna give this one a strong pass on the roguelite element. It's very fair. These choices won't make you straight out lose games like Into the Breach. These choices are sometimes very fluent with the current character you have. One of them is that you have to get -60 movement speed. Well, there's a character that starts off with already -10, so you're not gonna be really looking for movement speed on that character. You can just double down on the negative movement speed aspect of it, and once you get to -60, boom, you get the achievement. A little bit more about these classes. Each one of them has their own form of passives and traits. I want to use the Field Keeper as an example. The Field Keeper can only equip pole arms and nothing but pole arms as weapons. So anytime you go shopping and you see pole arms, you're going to want to grab it because you don't know when another pole arm's going to show up, and it's your only weapon choice, so you got to get while the getting's good. On the far opposite spectrum of this, I'm going to give you the Merchant as an example. See, the Merchant class does more damage depending on how much gold you have left over. So you may go and you may want to buy a weapon during your purchasing session as a merchant, and you really have to think of the math. Okay, what am I giving up here to buy this weapon? If I lose 10% damage, is this weapon going to make up for it? Do I need this weapon because I just don't have enough weapons currently? It makes shopping sessions for the merchant very, very unique. You got your class picked, you got your relic picked, pick your difficulty. There's 5 different levels. Scaling. 5 is very, very hard, by the way. I haven't beat it yet. You climb into the tower and you start ascending. After you survive the timer for the level, it brings you to the shop phase. Let's bring it back to combat for a second. You base get 1 dash, a short cooldown to dodge enemies in an area, as your weapons automatically seek and target enemies in range to attack. There's an option in the menu section to change this from automatically seeking enemies to kind of using your cursor to target, but this target system isn't like 100% pure. If you highlight over a certain enemy, your weapons won't go straight to it. It's kind of like a directional cone where you're pointing your weapons at, which is very nice. It gives it two modes of gameplay. You can do the automatic one or do the cone area one. Right there's 2 different play styles for combat. Enemies usually approach you to meet you, very much like Vampire Survivors. Even range enemies come towards you as they attack. The arena you fight in is super basic. It's either a rectangle or a square. It will have enemies spawning in there. There's a major mechanic that is underutilized, I'll talk about later. Some of these arenas have traps or blockades, and then there are, throughout the stage, you can get barrels to drop down. Barrels are your goodies container. You really want them. They can have anything from restoring health. Some of them just explode and can do damage to nearby enemies or you if you're too close. Some have gold, experience. Some make you invincible for a while, sort of Super Mario style. You can't run through enemies and damage them, but they just can't damage you. Before I wrote this review, I did want to see some of the negative comments to see if there was anything that I was really missing out on. I noticed a lot of people were saying that the combat is super floaty. I don't know what game you're playing that's a Vampire Survivor-like where the combat isn't floaty. This combat is pretty good, actually. There's really good strong sound effects. There's really good animations. The only thing I will tell you is that single target weapons do have a strong feeling that they overkill, and that sort of sucks. If you try to stack daggers, for example, which is an achievement to get 20 daggers, but the daggers buff each other, so it's a good achievement to have. It feels. I don't know how to put this into the feels versus reals. It feels like they do overkill damage, and that sucks. Because you can have 20 daggers for the achievement, and while you have 20 daggers, they're all attacking 1 or 2 enemies within range, overkilling them instead of trying to spread out and seek new targets. Killing enemies drops them gold, a chance for Titanite shards, and experience is the big one. And then after your timer runs out, hopefully you killed a whole bunch of enemies, and you got a whole bunch of all 3, go into the buying phase of the game. Right off the bat, you're going to be met with a suitcase, kind of treasure chest looking type deal, where you're going to be asked to expand your case out, and this is where you're going to put all your items into that you can bring into combat. These expansions are usually based off of levels, but there are also items that give you a negative downside to it to also expand out your inventory. This inventory is where you're going to put weapons, armor, jewelry, potions, and arcane anvil to upgrade weapons, but we'll get into that later on. The system on the surface looks super complex, but I unfortunately don't think so, and I'll get into that later. Items have shapes, and to even purchase the item, the shape and the availability of the spaces inside your case has to exist, or the shop will not let you purchase it. This is nice because you don't accidentally purchase something that you can't fit. There's a nice holding section where you can put items down into to hold off to the side for a second while you do your best to play Tetris and get everything to fit perfectly. You can rotate items 360 degrees, and later on you can get another slot to hold off more items to the side. I'm going to touch back on this system later on, but one of the main things I really liked about this system is that it's really foolproof. I'm not the brightest person. I'll try to sit there and count the squares and see if an item fits, but really the best thing to do is use your existing inventory, move it around to think where the item would fit, and then try to purchase it. And if you can't get the purchase, that probably means that you don't have enough space in general. And that's when you can decide whether you want to sell some of your existing items to make room for this new item, or use some of your consumables that you may have been holding on to make room for it. Items are bought in a store. The store offers you 5 items each time it rolls, and it rolls automatically whenever you end a phase. If the store doesn't have what you want, you can have an option to re-roll. I have a talent. You'll see that my first 2 re-rolls are free. After that, it gets more progressively expensive each time you re-roll, plus the items prices depend on how good the item is. I mentioned an arcane anvil. That's just for weapons, but it's a really nice item too. You don't have to constantly shop for higher tier items. Anvils will appear, and you can upgrade your weapons, just your weapons specifically, to a higher tier up without having to look for that specific item in a higher rarity. But also too, you can also just find a higher rarity of that item. There are plenty of times where I have a tier 1 of like a fist weapon, and I find a tier 3 one inside the store, sell my tier 1 item and buy the tier 3 one and put it right where the other one was. Let's say you re-roll and you see an item you really like, but you don't have the current resources to get it. If you right click the item, it will lock it, and that'll stop it from being re-rolled, even between levels. It will just sit there until you either unlock it or you purchase it. The buying phase, the tiers of items you get, is influenced by your luck stats. Stats are on the right side of the screen, by the way. They're just right over here. You can scroll over them, but they're pretty self-explanatory. Luck will give you better items to choose from, higher tiers, and I also believe this, but don't quote me on this one. I think certain levels of the tower have to be reached before certain items get unlocked, which just makes sense. You don't want legendary weapons showing up in your first shop. That would be really weird. Item stats and their shape can be discovered by scrolling over them. This is really important because this is where I'm going to get a lot of the audience really wanting to play this game. In every game I played in my entire life, okay, one of the main things people love is items with negative effects. You can have a really strong item with bonuses, but if it has a downside to it, that item is not just interesting, it's twice as interesting. And this game is chock full of them. You're going to be having to make choices on whether to upgrade your range, to decrease your dodge. You're going to have to decide between you want higher resources or if you want range. The choices are limited. Some items are straight just buffs. There's a vampire glove that's a good example of this. It's just a 2-slot item. It's a red glove, gives you 5 life still. Nothing to it. Very simple. Just a tier 2 item that gives you benefits. Some of these downsides though are really game changing. When you get to a later game, some of these downsides include stuff like you can't heal outside of certain parameters, or all your healing is cut, or you take constant damage. Some of these other ones that are more interesting to me that I really like too is that you can increase how many enemies appear. So if you're really kicking butt, you may want an item that has a downside of more enemies, but if you're already clearing the stage out really well and you're like one-shotting the enemies, you want more of them so you can kill them to get more experience, more HP, all that jazz. On top of that, a lot of items have synergy with items that you place around them. I'm going to give you a super simple case scenario. The Warlock class has a relic. Relic is an item that you start off with. You can sell it if you want to for a whole bunch of gold, but don't do it. It's class defining. And when you put items around this relic, it decreases their damage in half, but it also causes all the damage that they would be doing to be dot damage. That is way better than the half that's being cut off. So it's not just about fitting items. It's about fitting items the right way. Another example is these gloves that you can get that increase your attack and crit. For each adjacent glove next to them, and they don't even have to be the same exact glove. That vampire glove I talked about, it counts. It's a glove. So you want to put as many gloves touching each other to get as much, I think it's bonus crit or attack speed. Don't quote me on that one. Sorry about that. Soon enough, you'll be stacking up items, and all of a sudden, boop, there it is. Ping! You got an achievement. Congratulations. You played the game right. Yeah, it's a good system. Outside of your base enemies, I will tell you there's a good variety of enemies, but you're going to get into another problem later on that I'll mention later. You're going to see a lot of their uniqueness. There's going to be elites. Elites will usually be buffed up regular enemies. The big thing they do is they have no fear of you. They dash right at you. They appear naturally at certain times, level 5, 10, and 15, but you can also invoke these to come using certain items. Like an item I mentioned earlier that increases your inventory space will cause 2 elites to spawn your next level. And then there's actually an item that will give you bonus damage for each elite you destroy while wearing it. These synergies all build up on top of each other. Alright, we kind of got over all the basics. You're picking a character, you're going into the stages, you're killing monsters, demons, all that jazz. You're climbing the tower, and hopefully you get to the top, and difficulty 2 and plus, you're gonna beat Zoro, hopefully. If you don't beat him, I still think the reward's the same, but if you beat him, the stage ends much sooner, and he's a hard boss, so you really want to kill him quickly. What do you get for all this? What's the end goal? The main reward right now is Titanite shards and the friends you make along the way. That was a memey way to say it, but it's the achievements that you naturally progress as you play. But these Titanite shards I want to talk about for a second. All right, I'm going to transition here from describing and talking about the game to point out some flaws I see. Titanite shards can be used for 2 major things. First one is buying weapons and unlocking new items that will show up in your future runs. This is totally fine. Some of them are gatekept behind an achievement, and then you also have to purchase them using these Titanite shards, and some require a key. Keys are given to you for achievements too. I have like 21 keys. Keys have never been an issue. They could probably just remove it out of the game entirely. And it sucks to say this because you should be really excited to see new weapons and items. They're very interesting, ways that they interact with each other. But this is where the main downfall of the game comes from, because you're not going to spend these Titanite shards on weapons. Look at me. I know. Yeah, I know. You know where I'm going with this. See, there's a place you can go. It's called the Statue of Ancient God's Blessings. This statue for Vampire Survivor players is just straight stat boost for every single of the 37 classes that you can play. So this includes stuff like melee power increase, magic power increase, increased base HP, more Titanite shard drops randomly. I mean, you name it. Cooldown on your dash gets lowered. Sell prices on your items go up. And this is where you're going to sink all of your Titanite shards. And I think this is where negative reviews for the game start coming in. You have an option to either buy a weapon that you don't know how it plays, what it looks like, what it does, or you have the option to purchase a flat stat boost that goes across all your characters. Like I said, you can buy every weapon in the game, but the field keeper can only use pull arms. There's some examples, other examples of this, but mostly other classes just get better benefits with certain types of weapons. Or you can just get a flat stat increase. So which one are you gonna choose? You're gonna choose the safer option. I did too. It's 700 and I think 60 shards to unlock everything in this statue. And then you'll finally say to yourself, oh, that's great, now I can start buying items. You know what you're basically doing? You're doing the old school RuneScape equivalent of being like, once I 99 all my skills, I can start playing the game. You just can't resist it. You just can't. It's so ingrained into the gamer mindset to play the game the best you possibly can that you're not going to want to take risks on items that you don't know if will show up in your runs or if they will do enough to help you out. And this is like a message directly to the developer. We got to work on this statue, okay? Your players are going to keep playing rounds and they're not even going to look at the armory. They're just going to keep playing, farming Titanite shards to just get this minuscule little buff on all their classes. And they're going to think that the main fun from this game comes from playing different classes. It's like half the fun. Half the fun is when you unlock new items and they come up in your run and you're like, oh, I never played with this before. This will be interesting. So you got to do something to mitigate the risk of either buying weapons or the power of the tower. I have my own advice here, and you can take it with a grain of salt, or you can just pitch it out to the dust. I genuinely think the game could do with this simple system. There are certain notches for each skill you're buying and upgrading. I would honestly start gatekeeping these. You can buy like 2 notches of melee power, but if you want to buy 2 more notches of melee power, you're gonna have to buy at least 5 weapons or unlock 5 items. And then you can do that again once they get to the 4th notch, and they want to get to the 5th notch, you gotta buy another 5 items before you can unlock this. This mixes in that stat boost that players are gonna really want, and it'll also guide them towards buying weapons and items. Or if you want to, you can kind of go the Hades route. You could have it so you can only purchase like the first 4 rows of stats on the top, and then as you buy more weapons and items, you can have stuff undarkened out and you can purchase that too. The goal here, I think, for the developer is to show people that gameplay can be very fun and interesting by buying items, and they won't want to naturally do that. They're just going to want to min-max, and they're going to min-max themselves out of it. Every run's going to look the same. It's going to be the same weapons every single time, same items. Oh my god, this developer doesn't come up with anything. Meanwhile, there's an armory filled with like 200 plus items that they have no idea about because they're just looking to min-max. Another issue with this game that pops up, but this is going to be kind of like for all Vampire Survivor type games, is as I get to the higher difficulties, you're just going to want to perimeter walk in combat. You're going to want to go to the outside area of the box, square arena, and you're going to want to tunnel enemies down for your weapons that do sweeping strikes to hit more enemies at once. Plus, it's just a safe place to be. The barrels sort of help with this issue, but I do see myself seeing barrels drop and then just dashing in there, trying to get what's inside and dashing back out to the perimeter. I think this issue could be solved with weapons that do damage around you and reward you for being in the middle of combat. I know it sounds kind of cliche and stuff like that, but this is why Vampire Survivors has weapons that do damage in the shape of like X's on you or crosses on you, because you want to get your maximum damage. And if your maximum damage is going to be in the middle of enemies rather than being on the outside and only getting 50% of the damage because half of it's just going straight into the wall behind you, this is probably something you want to look into. It's gonna be done in auras or like I said, weapons that shoot in certain kind of directions. So talking to the developer again, this is another issue that I have with this game. You have such a cool inventory, and the inventory management should be a lot of fun, but it's not. I've even watched. Yeah, I see you on Steam. You're playing all the time. You're gonna want to make your case a square or a rectangle as quickly as possible and just go from there. I want you to think of this case as a map. You have nothing to really explore throughout each of the stages, but let's go on an adventure together. Let's say this case is a map. Let's say that there's a question mark and an arrow pointing downwards. And as you open up spots in your case downwards, you'll eventually hit an item. It can be a relic from another aspect of the same class, or maybe a specific item, something cool and interesting that whenever you finally touch your case unlocks to that item, you get a reward worth the risk of making your case look all janky. And this risk isn't really that bad. I mean, yeah, you won't be able to min-max as much as possible, but that's just something that you either have to choose to play it safe or play it super risky and try to get like a legendary item, that legendary sword. If you put it somewhere randomly on the map and you just had like vague arrows pointing to where it could be, people would go out and explore with their inventory, and then, you know, those items that only take up 1 slot or 2 slots becomes, because you're going to want to use all your inventory. But right now what happens is they're just fillers for the more obscure weapons, but eventually you're going to get to a point where you just have like a stack of like 1-slotted items in a row going down your right side, because the 1-slotted items are good, but you know, your case is a square, so there's no need to fit and fill little spots that you got yourself into. The game should feel like you're getting yourself set up for Tetris, and that you're constantly making mistakes so you can't Tetris down with a 5-line block like you feel like you are now. It should feel like I'm aiming towards a goal of unlocking something, and then on top of that, I need to make use of the obscure shapes I made along the way. Plus note, this game really respects your time, especially at the beginning. Levels are really short in time. They're like 40 seconds, which is super nice. Listen, you only gotta have 1 weapon at that time. You can't really make it interesting, so I really appreciate that. But I will tell you, this is a straight up demand. This cannot continue. All right, the developers have to do this. Okay, you have to make it so you can save and exit during the middle of a run. And I'm not talking in the middle of combat. Okay, that's a little bit, you should be able to still. It should just take you back to the last shopping screen. I know people can cheese it and cheat and, was it save scum is the word I'm looking for. Oh well, let them. If they have to save scum it, they're probably not going to get too far in your game either way. But the main problem is I can get on the 11th floor of a run, go to the shop face, say to myself, oh, hey, I have to, go eat, go shower, hang out with friends. Yeah, right. Go feed the chinchillas. And subconsciously, I say to myself, I'll just close this game and come back to it later. When you close the game in the middle of a run, that run's over. I don't even know if you collect the rewards that you would have gotten from the run. If you got like 20 Titanite shards from that run and you close out early, I don't know if those 20 Titanite shards come back. It just takes you to the main menu to select again. This is really like, this has to be fixed. This is insane. Another aspect of this game, I know I'm giving you a lot, but you did put out a future survey, so hey, thanks for the invitation to, dunk on you a little bit. But really, I do want to see this game genuinely do well. This one's a little bit more controversial. Armor items are really lame. Let's just call it what it is. If it's jewelry that increases stuff that you're doing, like more resources or more experience gained or more health regeneration, that's fine. But straight armor is just so lame. It is. You want the maximum offense because it rewards you. Maximum offense means that you're killing more enemies you're killing, more experience you're getting. More experience you're getting, more gold you're getting, more rewards. So if I'm given the option between buying a shield or buying a dagger, I'm gonna pick that dagger every single time. What's the point of preparing to take damage other than Zor at the end, who does do a lot of damage to you? What's the real reward if I can get more bang for my buck by just killing everything? If it's dead, it can't damage me. This one's really easy to solve. You do sort of solve it in some of these classes. Some of these classes will give you more damage if you buy armor and all that jazz. More items that do that too would be appreciated. And like I said, if you add those immolation auras or those attacks that do certain shapes on your character throughout the stage, guess what? You're gonna have to put yourself in risky situations. You're gonna get that armor perk. You're gonna take hits here and there. Those armor perks or items are gonna come into great use. Real quick, enemy projectiles should never follow you. This cannot happen too. This is another one that needs to be straight ripped from the game. If enemy projectiles are following me, especially from elites, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna perimeter walk. It's the safest place to go. I either dodge the attack or I get hit by it. Bullets that chase make it so the player is going to want to do the safest route, which is the perimeter walk. And do you really want your game to be half combat at the bottom half of your screen and the wall at the top half of the screen? No, you're not. So that's my suggestions for the future survey of the game. The game's really good. You should buy it. It's a lot of fun. It's $6. I definitely recommend it, especially if it's on sale. I wanted to put on a little bit of a wish list to you too, developers. The stuff I mentioned before has to be done. It's not negotiable. This is just more of a once. More traps and more lethal ones that I can lure enemies into, damage you yourself, potentially kill you too. The option for a longer tower climb. Give me like an extra 10 levels to really like have fun with my build. Maybe after I beat Zoro, I go into like an endless mode kind of deal. I really like that. A little bit more clarity when you're scrolling over items to see which items are getting benefits from each other. Right now, the boxes around them just highlight. You should probably have like a number pointing to what you're getting, like 1% increase to the right, and then the glove will be there. I genuinely hope the dev watches this video because I did double check, like I said, through these reviews. The stuff I am suggesting to you is stuff that comes up in negative reviews. And like I said, I know you're very active on Steam. Game's going great. You're having a great time streaming it. These are just things to make the game better. But like I said, at its base, the game is great. I'm just asking you, take that foundation that you worked so hard on and you made so good and just make a beautiful house on top of it. I really want the 100K sales announcement to be a 1 million sales announcement. I'm hoping some of the feedback I give you helps you get there. For anyone who's watching this and hasn't bought the game, like I said, go buy it. Especially, the main thing I'm going to tell you is does that inventory part of the game look interesting to you? If it does, you gotta buy this game. It's the only Vampire Survivor like that I know of that has this kind of inventory system. It's a lot of fun. It straight gives me nostalgia feels from when I played Resident Evil 4. I don't have an outro yet, so that's it. Love you. Bye.